Imagine for a second building a really thriving digital business from the ground up. Like you have thousands of daily fans, you control your own image, and you completely own your distribution platform outright.
Right. A total success story on paper.
Exactly. But then, tragically and suddenly, you pass away. Only, and here's where it gets incredibly unsettling, your digital avatar. It just clocks right in for work the very next morning.
Yeah. It's like the internet doesn't even blink.
Right. Your website is quietly hijacked, your old media is, renamed to look brand new, and your digital ghost just keeps generating profits for years. So today we are doing a deep dive into a deeply unsettling story where a complex human life ended, but the digital commodity just lived on.
It's a profound modern paradox, honestly.
Hmm.
The internet essentially created this space where the creator and the product become completely fused together.
Mm-hmm.
When someone passes away in the physical world, there's a natural pause,
Mm-hmm.
like a mourning period. But the machinery of the internet, it doesn't recognize grief. It only recognizes traffic.
Well, yeah, that is so true.
And when you remove the messy, three-dimensional reality of the human being, the digital persona is often just drafted right back into service.
And that tension between a really carefully constructed online avatar and the actual struggling human behind it, that is the absolute core of today's deep dive.
Yeah, it really is.
We are looking at a really poignant collection of sources today. We have biographical profiles, archived text from a personal About Me webpage from the early 2000s, and sadly, we also have official police records.
It's a tough mix of documents.
It is. Together, they chronicle the life, the career, and the passing of Angela Devi, who was born Angela Shunali Dhingra.
It's a heavy story, but an essential one to examine if we really want to understand the true cost of our digital legacies.
Absolutely. Our mission today is to look completely past the one-dimensional, surface-level image of her career in a pretty controversial field. We want to understand Angela as an ambitious early internet entrepreneur, an aspiring student, and really an individual whose digital footprint totally outlived her human tragedy. So, okay, let's unpack this.
To truly comprehend the massive divergence between her lived reality and her digital legacy, we have to ground ourselves in who she was before she ever became a searched-for name online.
Right.
Because the internet strips away context, right? So we really need to put that context back in.
Let's start with the human behind the screen then. Looking at the archives of her own website, much of this is actually written in her own words.
Which is incredibly valuable.
Yeah. So Angela Shunali Dhingra was born in New York City on July 30th, 1975. She noted she was of 100% East Indian descent, specifically with roots in New Delhi.
Mm-hmm.
And she proudly pointed out that the name Devi actually translates to queen. She eventually lived in Phoenix, Arizona for 17 years. But when I was reading through her personal goals, it completely threw me.
Oh, I know exactly what you're going to say.
Right. Like, I was expecting the usual aspirations of media dominance or acting or whatever, but she was studying accounting with a minor in finance. She explicitly stated her lifelong aspiration was to become a corporate CPA, get married, and have a loving family with 2 beautiful children.
What's fascinating here is the intense psychological dichotomy at play there.
Yeah, big time.
You have this public persona constructed for a highly specific, visually demanding audience in a really controversial field of media. And then, on the other hand, her private reality was anchored in these deeply traditional, structured aspirations.
Oh, yeah, CPA.
Exactly. Accounting and finance are about as far from the Wild West of the early internet as you can possibly get. I mean, they rely on rules, predictability, and long-term stability.
I was trying to square those two things while reading the sources. Like, is it possible that the CPA ambition was just PR? Something she wrote to seem more grounded or approachable to her audience?
I mean, it's a fair question.
Right.
But looking at the specificity of her lifestyle choices, it points to a genuine groundedness.
How so?
Well, when someone is fabricating a persona, they usually lean into broad, generic fantasies. But her details are deeply mundane and specific.
That's true. Like, she described her own personality as chatty, generous, nurturing, loyal, and a go-getter. And her daily routine, man, it was intense.
Very intense.
She was incredibly passionate about the mind-body-soul connection. She exercised relentlessly, valued holistic nutrition, ate absolutely no red meat, and followed a very strict high-protein, low-carb diet.
But then she had that funny contradiction, right?
Yes. She playfully admitted to having a huge sweet tooth, calling herself a cookie monster, and talking about how much she loved Chinese food, specifically lettuce wraps.
I love that detail. Those are the quiet truths of her identity. She wanted to be a CPA. She viewed her body as a holistic temple. She loved lettuce wraps.
Yeah.
It's a sharp reminder that the figures we consume as media are constantly navigating the space between the relentless expectations of an audience and their own relatable everyday humanity.
It totally shatters your preconceived notions. It's honestly like meeting a colleague outside of the office for the first time. You think you know their entire resume identity, but then you grab a coffee and discover they have this whole separate, quiet ambition that completely changes how you see them.
That's a great way to put it.
But that creates a massive paradox.
Okay.
How does someone who wants a quiet life as a corporate CPA end up stepping in front of a camera for films geared toward mature audiences?
Well, to understand that leap, we really have to look at the landscape of the early 2000s internet and how she navigated it.
Okay, let's look at her professional timeline. She began her modeling career for a platform called foxes.com. And from the very beginning, she stood out because she was one of the very few models in this specific area of mature entertainment who came from an Indian background.
Yeah, in that era, the industry for mature content was incredibly homogenous.
Mm.
It was saturated with a very specific, almost standardized look.
Yep.
So by stepping into that space as an East Indian woman, she was breaking a massive mold. And whether that was a calculated market disruption or simply a byproduct of her existing in that sphere, it immediately made her notable.
But she didn't just stay a model for hire on someone else's platform. This is where her business acumen kicks in. She built her own dedicated website, angeladevi.com.
Which is huge back then.
Huge. She started selling self-produced videos directly to consumers. The sources detail that she would film these entirely by herself, speaking directly to a tripod-mounted camera.
Total DIY setup.
Totally. She
Yeah.
gave them fairly neutral but, descriptive titles for her market, things like clothing optional, chocolate-covered cherry, and booby squeeze and cookie teasing.
Yep.
And she was extremely upfront with the exact physical stats her audience demanded. She posted that she was 5'1", 105 pounds, with measurements of 36DD, 2333, brown hair, brown eyes, and a pierced navel.
What you're describing is the architecture of an early digital entrepreneur.
Yeah.
Today, we just take direct-to-consumer content for granted. Anyone can set up a camera and monetize a feed. But in the early 2000s, that required significant technical and logistical heavy lifting.
Right. You had to know what you were doing.
Exactly. She had to understand server hosting, payment gateways, and self-distribution.
Here's where it gets really interesting, though. Do you think her background studying accounting and finance directly fueled this? Or was she just a model who realized the middleman was taking way too much of a cut and did it out of sheer necessity?
It's likely a really powerful combination of both. Necessity often forces innovation, sure, but having a foundational understanding of finance gives you the confidence to actually execute it.
That makes sense.
She saw that the traditional model meant surrendering control and, more importantly, revenue. So by bringing the production and distribution in-house, she was operating essentially as a one-woman studio.
And the way she filmed speaking directly to that tripod-mounted camera, it seems so basic to us now, right? With
Yeah.
modern social media. But why was that such a successful business strategy back then?
Because it triggers a very specific psychological mechanism called a parasocial relationship.
Okay, unpack that.
To define that simply, it's a one-sided bond where a fan feels a deep, genuine, and personal friendship with a media figure simply because that figure is looking into the lens and speaking as if they are alone in the room with the viewer.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. By cutting out the elaborate sets and co-stars, she cultivated a direct, perceived intimacy. It feels authentic, which makes it a highly sophisticated monetization strategy. The viewer isn't just buying a video, they feel like they're supporting a friend.
If you're enjoying the vibe, go ahead and hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and share this video with your friends. It really helps us out.
Absolutely.
But, building that kind of direct, hyper-focused relationship with an audience in a controversial, visually demanding field, that comes with a terrifying amount of pressure. So let's talk about the physical toll this took on her.
It's intense. When your entire business model relies on maintaining the gaze of an audience that constantly craves novelty, the line between your physical self and your business asset completely dissolves.
Yeah, and the numbers in the sources are just staggering. They report that Angela underwent 22 separate surgical enhancements.
22. It's hard to even fathom.
Right, and her fan base wasn't just passively watching. They were actively tracking and honestly commodifying these physical changes. There were entire forum threads dedicated to tracking her, quote, breast enlargement progression.
It's a chilling phrase, isn't it?
It
Progression.
really is.
It reduces a highly complex, intelligent woman to a mere metric of physical alteration.
I really struggle to reconcile this part of the story. I'm looking at the bio where she talks about the mind-body-soul connection. She treated her body like a temple for health. She refused red meat. She prioritized holistic
Yeah.
nutrition, and yet she subjected that exact same body to 22 separate surgical procedures. Think about the repeated anesthesia, the trauma of recovery, the physical pain. It's the ultimate irony.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, you have to contrast the permanence of a surgical scalpel with the fleeting nature of an internet algorithmic feed.
Oh, that's a good point.
An audience on the internet is insatiable. They consume an image, and 3 seconds later, they demand something new. To try and satisfy that digital hunger with permanent physical alterations to your own body creates a profound, almost unendurable psychological strain.
It's like you can never win.
Exactly. It is a violent clash between her internal values regarding holistic health and the crushing external market pressures of her chosen profession.
And that underlying tension between the inner reality and the outer demands brings us to the tragic events of March and April 2006. If you're listening right now, you might be wondering how things unraveled. I want to look at this timeline carefully, giving it the breathing room it requires, because it is just heartbreaking.
It is crucial we examine this not for sensationalism, but to truly understand the profound isolation that can occur behind a highly visible digital curtain.
Let's start on March 27, 2006. According to the police reports, Angela reached out to a friend. She asked a very dark, very direct question about how someone would end their life by hanging.
A question like that is rarely idle curiosity. It is almost always a desperate signal flare.
And the friend's response, it's incredibly difficult to read. The friend dismissed her harshly, replying via message, I guess with a fucking rope and a stool, why are you asking these stupid questions?
It's just devastating.
If you're listening to this right now, you are probably screaming at your device. It is so hard to fathom that kind of cruelty in response to a literal cry for help.
It really represents the ultimate tragic misread. People often assume that someone with a successful, glamorous public persona couldn't possibly be in genuine despair.
Right.
They interpret a cry for help as melodrama because it shatters their perception of the strong avatar they know online.
Just 4 days after that exchange, on Friday, March 31st, 2006, Angela was found deceased in her home in Scottsdale, Arizona. She was only 30 years old. She was discovered at approximately 10.11 fees in the morning.
The finality of that moment is incredibly heavy.
The official cause of death was suicide by asphyxiation. And the police report details the scene, and it just strips away all the digital artifice. She was found at the bottom of her stairs. A multicolored plaid cloth was tied around her neck, attached to a decorative hook that had pulled loose from the ceiling. A knocked-over stool was nearby.
The stark, mundane details, a plaid cloth, a decorative hook, they leave us with the agonizing reality of a human being in immense, unmanageable pain, utterly alone in her physical space despite having thousands of digital eyes on her daily.
The report goes on. In the kitchen, police found a garbage bag containing a glass with a straw alongside empty packages of Xanax. Specifically, 115 pills of a 0.5 milligram dose were unaccounted for.
Wow.
Yeah. And nearby, there was a partial note. It was addressed to Dearest Mom and Dad. In it, she apologized for what happened last Monday. Her family later confirmed to authorities that the previous Monday had been an earlier attempt on her life.
So the family knew, and the friend had been signaled. It is a devastating cascade of missed opportunities for intervention.
It really is.
It underscores a harsh truth. Digital connectivity does absolutely nothing to cure physical and emotional isolation.
This is where the story shifts. The human life ends on March 31st. But what happens next is what you referred to earlier as the modern paradox. The digital afterlife begins, and it is chilling.
Oh, it really is.
On April 1st, literally the very next day, rumors of her passing appeared on her own website. But whoever was managing the site removed the announcement within 24 hours. The site just quietly stopped accepting new members and officially closed its doors on April 30.
It highlights a complete lack of protocol.
Yeah.
The digital infrastructure didn't know how to process a real-world human death, so the immediate instinct was simply to sweep it under the rug to protect the brand continuity.
But the internet abhors a vacuum. By August of that year, a behind-the-scenes industry website known as Luckersback obtained the official unredacted police reports and posted them publicly. The darkest moments of her life were laid bare for consumption.
Horrifying.
And then the actual infrastructure of her digital business was repurposed. The DNS records for AngelaDevi.com were briefly taken down, but then they were restored. Only they didn't lead to a memorial or a tribute page. They were rerouted to direct traffic straight to foxes.com and later to another site called rascaldog.com.
I want to break down exactly what that means. Think of DNS records like a physical street sign pointing to a storefront.
Okay.
When she died, someone essentially climbed up the pole, took down the street sign pointing to Angela's independent business, and pointed it directly toward their own corporate storefront. They essentially hijacked the remaining foot traffic of her grieving or unaware fan base to generate ad revenue for themselves.
That is incredibly predatory. And it didn't stop there. 3 years later, in 2009, Foxes began monetizing her old media all over again. They took her existing video sets, upscaled them to a slightly higher resolution, and slapped brand new titles on them to trick the algorithm into treating them as fresh content.
Unbelievable.
They even released 3 entirely new sets that she had filmed shortly before her death.
It is the absolute pinnacle of digital commodification.
They packaged these posthumous releases with titles like Ultimate Lust Goddess, Most Awesome Body, Naughty Fitness Chick, and High Heel Boots and G-String. They were actively marketing a woman who had been deceased for 3 years.
Because there is zero mourning period in commerce.
None at all.
The industry machinery instantly and without hesitation converted her final physical images back into a consumable product. Her digital ghost was forced to clock back in, satisfying the demands of an audience that likely had no concept of the profound human tragedy that had actually occurred.
Right.
The human was gone, but the avatar was still highly profitable.
It is profoundly jarring to hold these 2 versions of Angela in your mind simultaneously. On one side, you have the ambitious, generous young woman who loved lettuce wraps, cared about holistic nutrition, and genuinely wanted to build a stable life as a corporate CPA.
Yeah.
And on the other side, you have this endlessly duplicated digital commodity whose image was being traded, renamed, and profited off of by corporations years after she was gone. So what does this all mean?
This raises an important question, and it forces every single one of us to confront a reality that extends far beyond Angela's specific controversial field. We live in an era where we all curate personas online. We upload our thoughts, our images, our lives. The provocative question we have to ask ourselves is, what happens to our own digital ghosts?
Wow.
When the human behind the keyboard logs off for the final time, who truly owns that legacy? Is it the people who actually loved us, who knew our mundane complexities and our quiet ambitions? Or is it the platforms, the algorithms, and the corporate entities that will continue to harvest and profit from our echoes long after we are gone?
That is a haunting and vital thought to leave on. Look at your own digital footprint and ask yourself who it really belongs to. Thank you to everyone listening. Thank you for taking the time to join us, for looking past the sensational surface, and for exploring this emotional, complex deep dive with us today. We will catch you next time.